Robert Charles is here.
Yeah.
There's no case. We had on the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Prophet Charles, file number 24-01575FY. Council Fair.
Morning, Your Honor, sir, pulled on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. The Public Defender, Aaron Schroeder, on behalf of Mr. Charles, who is present and staying to my right. Thank you, Mom.
Things the dates up for preliminary examination. So if you have a note that there is a motion to amend the complaint.
Yes, Your Honor, our intention after running a preliminary examination in this manner would be to move to bind over on the next degree up of fleeing and eluding. I did provide the tax code for Your Honor and for your court to make that easier in marking the court file if we are able to prove in testimony that that is appropriate.
And so we're continuing to examine this time.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, and there was an offer put on. I don't, the prosecutor at this time has decided that they are going to instead move forward in this manner, so we will be asking for the exam. Thank you.
Any other preliminary matters before we call witnesses?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
I'm not sure, right, this attorney's in my. I watch it. Amy Colston.
I am here on people of the state of Michigan versus Singh Maninder Singh. I don't know why Singh is in there twice.
Do you have a case number?
Yes, it is. Hold on. Sorry, I'm gonna have to switch documents, Judge. It'll take me just a moment. No, that's not it. Case number is 24-34788 SI1.
Coming up. We don't have a case number coming up for that. What court are you looking for?
Well, it's strange because I was given this court, but then when I look at the notice to appear, it says Judge Bluebaugh.
Not this court at all.
Yes, I was looking, but in the I received an email with a docket, and on that I was given this court. So I'm sorry, let me open this. Oh, for Pete's sake. Yeah. Wait, what? Okay. That's not great. Oh no. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. All right. I have to go. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
We're on the same.
Okay.
I didn't look it on Google.
Let's see.
And there's the start to the day.
Indeed, you can call your first witness.
Thank you. You call Officer Donovan Moore to stand, please.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
You can have a seat, officer. And if you can spell your first and last name.
First name Donovan, Donovan. Last name Moore, Moore.
You can proceed.
Thank you. So where are you currently employed?
The Lansing Police Department,
In what capacity?
Road Patrol Officer.
How long have you been with the Lansing Police Department?
5 years now.
And as a road patrol officer, can you describe to the court what your typical duties are?
People call the police. I'm on the road. I work so 8:30 at night, 6:30 in the morning. Working between those times.
Do you also do traffic control?
Yes, I do.
Can you describe to us what that means?
Whether there's speeders, whether there's people going through ignoring red lights, or stop signs, construction, stuff like that.
Very good. And were you working on the evening of May 30th, 2024,
Yes,
in your capacity as a road patrol officer?
yes,
And on that date, were you patrolling, road patrol in the area of North King Boulevard and West Ottawa Street in the city of Lansing, Ingham County?
yes.
Can you please describe to us what you saw on that evening?
Yeah, so when I was first, I saw a car going south on King from Shiawassee Street. And I saw it was a tan passenger car, or sorry, sedan. And then I saw it keep going down south on South King, North King Boulevard. There weren't any other cars down the road or anything else like that. And so when I got to Shiawassee and King, I saw the car still continue through the road close signs. There's construction from on North King Boulevard from Ottawa Street all the way to West Saginaw Road. There's a lot of road signs that say road closed. Can't be driving down there. There's a lot of equipment. Saw this vehicle drive through the road closed sign on the dirt road and everything. So by the time I got behind it, which was at West Ottawa, to turn on my emergency lights for the traffic stop.
What are the rules that as it relates to road closures and construction in areas for passenger vehicles?
Just find another way around it. Roads closed means road closed. Unless you're living there, something else like that. I mean, I understand that if you're going directly to your house, but I mean, the road's closed and you're not driving over it.
And can you describe the area in which the closure was? Are there houses located on that section?
Yes,
And when you saw the vehicle in that area, where was that vehicle traveling?
south.
Tell us, once you turned on your lights, what that vehicle did.
Immediately sped up, swerved, and then didn't stop for me at all. I saw the driver wave his hand. I waved at me. I saw the driver saw me, and it just kept driving away. It didn't stop at all.
Tell us the direction in the area that this car was driving in and speeding away from you.
So driving went on Lahoma all the way up to Ottawa Street, back through the construction area. And went from King to Genesee to the construction area again. From east on Genesee, north on Butler, west on the pier. You turn south about like the 900 block of what's the pier, down an alley. And that's when it started coming to a slow stop and pulled into a house.
Now, this area that you're describing, is this a residential, commercial area, factory area? What type of an area is this?
Just houses,
Houses, and what would the speed limit be over in that area on Lahoma Street?
25 miles per hour.
And when you were driving, and I believe I said the evening of May 30th, but was this actually the early morning hours of May 30th?
Yes, like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning.
And the lighting in that area, was it dark at that time? The streetlights?
It's dark but lit with streetlights.
Right. And when you were driving, how long approximately were you driving around the area pursuing this vehicle with your lights and sirens on?
So when I first made the traffic stop, I could tell that the vehicle wasn't stopping for me, so I turned off my lights and everything for that. The vehicle was still kind of pulling away from me. And then when it started slowing down again, once it's going in the alley, I mean, it was about a minute or so, just kind of go through the construction, slamming on his brakes and driving back and forth.
So at what point did you put your lights on?
That was when I was able, the first time was when I was able to catch up to the vehicle at, it was Ottawa and Cambridge.
And how long did you pursue this vehicle before turning the lights off?
Block or two?
When you turned the lights off, did you continue to follow the vehicle?
Yes.
And when you turned the lights back on, did the vehicle stop for you immediately at that point?
At that time, I saw the vehicle coming to a stop, so I turned the lights on because at this point, it fled for me. It was not, I was trying to do a traffic stop. On the Homewood, there was more than enough space to stop right there. There's no construction, there's cars are parked, there's no people walking, cars moving, so at that time, I was gonna be arresting the driver for fleeing for me. At that time, when I did turn the lights on behind in the alleyway, the driver immediately jumped out of the car.
Tell us about that, please.
So for my history of people jumping out of the car and fleeing from police, they're trying to hide something or trying to get away from me or trying to run away from the police. And so I was suspecting that's what the driver was doing right then and there. So I jumped out of my car, unholstered my duty gun and ran towards the driver, which ended up being Prophet Charles. And at that time, he put his hands up and then my gun.
Very good. The person that you put into handcuffs, you see that person here in the courtroom today?
Yes, it is.
Please point and describe an article of clothing the person's wearing.
So my left wearing a black hoodie, it says Nike.
Very good, thank you. Let the record reflect witnesses identified or defendant.
Any objections to identification?
Not for purposes of preliminary trial.
So noted on the record.
And after placing the defendant into custody, did you have any other issues with the defendant at that time?
No other issues.
Did you read him Miranda and take any statements from him?
No, I did not.
All right, very good. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Moore for being here today. You told Mr. Charles when you pulled him out that, and I may be abbreviating here, that he was actually driving correctly, did you not? You told him he was driving fine, he was following the rules.
I'm going to object to hearsay.
Well, there's an objection, so I have to
Sorry.
address it. Did you want to respond to the hearsay objection?
But I will, Officer Morris stated that he was driving in different manners and then that we're swerving and speeding. But when he spoke with on the day of, he did not make note of any of that, is what I'm trying to get at.
I recognize what you're trying to get at, but the objection is that it's hearsay. Did you want to respond? I mean, it sounds like it's made up for the truth of the matter, sorry. So I'm trying to understand what your exception to hearsay is.
I would withdraw the question.
You can proceed. You cannot answer that question. You can proceed.
Officer Moore, you indicated you've been a police officer sometime, correct?
Yes.
You attended police academy,
Yes.
and at that point you were taught you learned how to write reports there, correct?
Yes.
And you understood the importance of writing reports, correct?
Yes.
And making sure they're factually accurate, correct?
Yes.
Because they're being used in court proceedings, correct?
Yes.
And they're being used, and the fact of the matter is you have to include things in there that they accurately reflect what happened, correct?
Yes.
And that's because they may be used in future prosecutions, correct? The basis of them. And you're not given like a time limit on which you have to write them, correct? Okay, fair enough. And when you write the reports, though, fairly close to the time in which they occurred, the incident occurred, correct?
If I arrest somebody, yes.
Okay. So if something is in your report, it's important, correct? If you've
Yes.
noted something. And your report is a complete summary of events, correct? As
Yes.
best as you can do. And when you've written a report, or you said, and you submit it, it's because you are satisfied you've included everything in your report, correct?
Yes.
So if something's not in your report, it may not have happened, correct?
I'm gonna object to speculation, Your Honor.
All right, well, I'll try, I can rephrase your honor.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna cause for speculation. She's asking a question. If it's not in his report, does that mean it didn't happen? I don't think that calls for speculation. It's about his report, not in general.
That's true, your honor. I would ask that you answer.
Objections overruled.
If it's not in your report, is it likely it did not happen?
Not a report doesn't mean it did not happen, it just means I didn't include it in my report.
But you didn't think, maybe because you didn't think it was important to include? So,
Yes, sorry.
okay, so if it's not, if there's no mention of speeding or swerving in your report, is that because it didn't happen, or is that because you didn't think it was
I
important?
did actually add in my report initially when I made the traffic stop at Lahoma and West Ottawa, they spent.
So you. But up briefly on the, I understand, I may have missed that, but if they did not include anything regarding swerving, would you agree that you didn't think that was important?
Correct.
And you indicated on direct that he put his hand out to acknowledge you, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and when you were speaking with Mr. Charles later, he actually was pulling into the driveway of his girlfriend's house.
I'm
is
gonna
that
object
correct?
to hearsay, Your Honor. It calls for the defendant's statements. It's being used not by the opposing party. It's being offered for the truth of the matter stated by the defense. It's not a party opponent statement.
How else would he have known where the defendant was playing into? Objections.
I
Sustained.
will. One moment, Your Honor, if I may.
Okay, take your time.
Thank you.
I don't know who this is. Katrina Bellin.
Good morning.
Good morning. What matter are you logging in for?
I am logging in. I'm sorry, what was the question again? What case?
Yes, what case are you looking for?
15-01722 G as in good, C as in cat, dash G as in good, C as in cat. I don't know. This is LAFCU versus Lenitra Middlebrook, and I am Pink Diamond Beauty Mall.
I remember seeing that yesterday.
I remember that on.
I remember seeing that name. Good timing.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been yesterday. Was it Monday? That phone number didn't come up? What was it? 15-01722 GC. Or maybe it's tomorrow. I did see it on my docket this week. Oh, Austin adjourned it, but they were unable to serve. Somebody. When's it adjourned to? They didn't set anything. They have to serve them. Okay, it looks like, so the civil department reset that matter because they didn't have proper service on one of the parties.
Okay,
And so
I don't
we
even know.
We don't see the new date yet.
Okay. Okay, I don't even know if I don't even know what this, okay.
Okay, I do know that I have had an ongoing matter with Lenitra Middlebrook. I'm not sure how.
I got involved. That's what I'm trying to figure out. They said that she worked for me. She never worked for me. I'm a salon owner here in Detroit, so I have a salon. I did
Does
do an
she-
interview with her, but
That-
she never worked for me. So I don't know how we got involved.
She never worked for you, ma'am? Yeah, I'm not
No.
sure how you got added on there. I'll have it addressed. Let's see. Your name is Katrina Bellin?
Yes, correct. And I'm the owner of Pink Diamond Beauty Mall here. And I did have an interview with the young lady, I don't even know how many years ago. She stated she lived in a Flint or something, but she never showed up. So I don't know how we got on the case here.
I'm not sure either, but I will note that here in our system. And when it's reset, I'll make sure that they only address Ms. Middlebrook's. I've been having an ongoing issue in that with the file and with Ms.
Okay.
Middlebrook. And that was, my understanding is that she was self-employed, so I'm not sure.
No, never here.
Yeah, that was agreed. It was never, she was self-employed and there was another name of the salon that she had here in the Lansing area. So I'm not sure how you got tied in. The attorneys are not here today on that matter. I'm in the middle of a criminal matter. But I saw you in the waiting room, so I didn't want you sitting there because I know that I didn't see your name on my docket today.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll keep this information that I have. I have the information here stating me and her and everyone on here signed off. So I don't know and how much they're suing me for. So I don't know. I'll wait and see if I get something in the mail. Go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.
I do have a few more questions. Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Moore, how often are you in that area where this, just like way to put it, pursuit took place?
Oh, that's my assigned district action information.
Okay. And how long have you been on that particular shift?
Nice.
And well, in that particular area? How long have you been assigned to that area?
3 years.
Okay. How do you know what the speed limit is?
There's posted speeds up and down, up in the area.
Okay. But you're not like the one who set that speed or anything of that nature, correct?
Correct.
Redirect.
None, thank you, Your Honor.
If you Officer Moore, you may be excused.
No further witnesses from the people, Your Honor.
Is it just calling any witnesses?
Not today, Your Honor, thank you.
You can make argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. As we notified the court, we would be moving to bind over on an added count of fleeing and eluding third degree under MCL 750.479A3, which is a 5-year felony or $5,000. It's just 1 degree up from what he is currently charged. We would move to dismiss the original count 1. The reason that we were moving to amend the complaint is that as we expected, testimony showed that the defendant engaged in a fleeing and eluding pursuit from Officer Donovan Moore on May 30th, 2024 in the area of Lahoma and West Ionia in the city of Lansing, Ingham County. And that when he did that through the residential area, the speed limit in the city of Lansing residential areas is 25 miles an hour. The new fleeing third charge just adds the one factor that the pursuit did occur in an area where the speed limit was 35 miles an hour or less. So at this time, we would move to bind the case over on just added count to a fleeing and eluding third degree.
Counsel.
Your Honor, as the officer indicated, he's not going to set the speed limit. Yes, he does routinely work over in that area. However, there's been nothing offered in terms of actual proof other than what the officers believes is the speed limit over in that area, as to the speed limit actually was set in that area. At this time, Your Honor, I'd ask the court to find over on the lower charge, the fourth degree. Thank you.
Testimony today from Officer Donovan Moore. For the purposes of today's preliminary examination. So for your information, Mr. Charles, the preliminary examination is an evidentiary hearing. It's a hearing that's held where the prosecutor is required to put forth evidence that would establish whether or not they have sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with a crime. This is not a trial. They don't have to prove each other beyond a reasonable doubt. They just need to provide more than mere suspicion, and that could be based on testimony evidence that the crime alleged was committed. And the court will be the sole determiner of credibility of the witnesses. Again, we had one witness, and that's Officer Donovan Moore, who stated that on for about May 30th, 2024, at approximately 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning in the area of North King Boulevard, Adamere, West Ottawa, did observe a vehicle operating at a high rate of speed, or speeding, as he stated, that the car continued through a road closure area due to the road was being closed due to construction. That he followed behind and gave an indication for that vehicle to come to a stop or halt, that the driver saw him, is what the officer said, and that the driver put his hand out or waved his hand as an indication that he saw the officer. Officer testified that the speed limit in that area is 25 miles per hour, and frequently patrols that area, and therefore he was familiar with the speed limit, but that the defendant was driving above that speed limit. An estimation is that he came to stop at an address and immediately jumped out of the car when coming to the stop. Officer subsequently takes the defendant into custody. He identified the defendant today in court as the person he arrested and the person operating the vehicle, Prophet Charles. Venue in this court is appropriate. The court jury instructions that is for flee and eluding. In this case, there's a motion to bind over on flee and eluding the third degree. Indicate that at the time of trial, the people would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the police officer was in a uniform and was performing his lawful duties, and that any vehicle driven by the officer was identified as a law enforcement vehicle. Testimony supports that element. Second, the defendant was driving a motor vehicle. Officer again testified that he identified the defendant driving a motor vehicle. Third, the officer ordered the defendant to stop the vehicle. Fourth, the defendant knew of the order. That can be inferred by the fact that the officer testified that the defendant knew, and that the defendant put his hand out or waved in order to indicate that he saw the officer. Fifth, that the defendant refused to obey the order by trying to flee or elude. Again, officer testified to the defendant traveling or continue to travel at accelerated speed, pulling into driveway and then trying to hop out of the vehicle immediately as to elude or hide something, is what the officer believed was going on. Six, that the violation resulted in a collision or some portion of the violation took place in an area where the speed limit was 35 miles per hour or less. And the officer stated the speed limit in this case was 25 miles per hour court is satisfied that there's sufficient probable cause as to each of these elements of the argument by defense that the officer or that there was no sufficient evidence as to whether or not the speed limit was there. We know that officers don't set speed limits. Speed limits are set by law. And there are certain speed limits that are typically set based on jurisdictions. We know that residential areas typically have certain speed limits unless posted otherwise. His statement and testimony here was that he was familiar with this area and that he knew the speed limit to be 25 miles per hour. Whether or not that is accurate or that he could be mistaken or that there was a posting that otherwise made the speed limit something different is a question of fact that's to be addressed at trial by the finder of fact. So this matter will be bound over on the enhanced charged fleeing and eluding in the third degree. Bind over date is going to be July 10th. You do not need to appear in court on July 10th. That's just the date the circuit court gets the file from the district court, okay? You do not have to appear on that date, okay? Your next court date that you will have to appear is going to be for pretrial. Your attorney will be made aware of that. You will be in contact with your attorney throughout this time, okay? What's your address, sir?
Mine, 911 West Avenue Road, apartment 11,
And your phone number?
517-684-9015.
Oh, your bond was set at 2,000 personal recognizance that will continue. Any additional matters for the record today?
Nothing from the people, thank you.
Nothing but defense, thank you.
You're all set, thank you.
Okay, with you doing it? Oh, you want? I'm gonna be over here doing this stuff, so you might have more
All
than a
right,
minute.
no worries. If you know if it's a sign, you don't need to sign it, or is he just gonna sign it?
Well,
No, we're
No.
talking, I'm trying to figure out. how you do- I'm trying to make sure that people don't know about it. That's what I'm trying to do, okay?
I don't know.
They said I'm good right there.
We will have to totally assign to, so,
Okay.
once it gets in that system, I think then it's assigned
Yeah, okay.
to, he has to be arraigned and then it's assigned to the person.
And it should be.
Yes. Yeah, so there's no longer jurisdiction, right?
Okay, I'm going to get, I need to get a signature.
Sorry, Dominic, I can email to her.
I didn't know I need to get a, I think I need to get a
I'm gonna go
signature.
check.
I need to get a signature.
Okay.
You were good to at this point, I'm going to do my best to figure out.
Are you sending me, if
On the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Trade Corius, Dodd Brown, file number 24-01251, counsel parent.
Thank you, Sarah. Hold on behalf of the people.
Assistant Public Defender Sarah Donnelly on behalf of the defendant Trey Corey and Dodd Brown, who is present and sitting to my right.
Okay, today was the date to continue an exam that began back on May 17th. Ready to continue?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Here.
Thank you. We call Officer Sabrina Martin to the stand, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, ma'am.
And you can have a seat. State your first and last name as well.
Sabrina Martin, Sabrina, last name Martin, Martin.
You can proceed, counsel.
Thank you. Ma'am, where are you currently employed? In what capacity?
Police officer.
And what is your assignment currently?
Patrol.
Can you tell us how long you've been with the Lansing Police Department?
I've been a sworn police officer since December 6th, 2023.
Very good. And were you working as a patrol officer with Lansing Police Department on the date of April 27th or 28th of 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
And what shift were you working on that date, if you remember?
Third shift.
And what is your typical area that you're assigned to in your position?
For that day, it was District 1 in the north end.
Very good. And on that date, were you dispatched to the area of Cedar Street and Fenton Street to assist with the situation happening there?
Yes,
Were you working with another officer at that time?
yes.
Who was that?
Sam Candell.
Very good. And he's also an officer with the Lansing Police Department?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the dispatch to that area, please?
It was a priority call where officers were fighting with one subject on the way to the call because we were coming from the north end, going to the south end. Officers called out that there was a taser deployment. When I arrived on scene, officers already had the subject in handcuffs. And from there, we passed on, and I just took custody of him.
Very good. And when you arrived, did you place hands on this person in cuffs at all when you initially arrived to the scene?
When I initially arrived to the scene, did I place cuffs on him or?
Did you place hands on him? Were you involved in any of?
Yes, yep.
Tell us about that, please.
I just held on to him while we were trying to figure out if he wanted to, he had taser probes in him, so I held on to him to figure out if he wanted the taser probes out of him or not, and he would not give the officer a yes or no answer.
Okay, understood. And if you were to see this person again, would you be able to identify that person?
Yes,
This person here in this courtroom?
yes.
Please point and describe an article of clothing. And what kind of clothing is that person wearing?
Blue jumpsuit.
Very good. Let the record reflect that the witness has identified our defendant.
Any objection to identification?
No, Your Honor.
Identification is noted on the record.
Thank you. Can you describe the demeanor of the defendant when you first approached and the question was posed of him about the probes? How was he acting?
Upset,
Okay.
angry, frustrated, all of the above emotions.
And you said that you eventually stayed with him through transport. Was that correct?
I was not in the ambulance, no. I followed the ambulance to the hospital.
Understood. And while at the hospital, can you tell us how the defendant reacted to that?
While in the hospital,
Yes.
he was still upset while in the hospital.
Was he eventually medically cleared by the hospital as it
Yes.
related to the taser?
Yes.
And what happened next with him?
After he was cleared from the hospital, we transported him to Lansing lockup.
And when you say we, was that Officer Candell?
Officer Kendall and I.
Yes.
Yes.
And once at lockup, can you tell us what happened there?
When we arrived to lockup, we were at the booking desk. We were trying to adjust his cuffs for him, and he was not being compliant with officers, so multiple officers had to grab a hold of him. I assisted in grabbing a hold of him and held him against the glass. At some point, he was taken to the ground. I wasn't able to describe exactly how he was taken to the ground, but he was eventually taken to the ground, and from that point, I still had to hold on to him so officers could adjust his cuffs and then put ankle cuffs on him.
Once on the ground, how was the defendant acting then?
He was still throwing around his body. He didn't want to comply with our demands. He still moved around. So we had to keep a hold of him so that he would stay still.
And were you in full uniform at that time?
Yes.
And can you tell us, you've told us about the lockup. Is that the Lansing lockup here in City Hall?
Yes.
Okay. Was he eventually taken under control by the officers at that point?
Yes.
And while at lockup, was it required that he have fingerprints taken?
He needs to be positively identified.
At that point, had he positively identified himself verbally at all? You know,
I do not know.
okay, but eventually he did have to have fingerprints taken at lockup.
Correct.
And tell us about his behavior then.
He didn't want to open his fist up so that we could scan his finger. So I had to open up his index finger and his middle finger for him so that he could scan them on the fingerprint scanner.
Okay. Was he eventually taken into custody and placed into a jail cell?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further for this witness.
I have a question. Officer, you indicated that while there was attempt to adjust his cuffs, that he had to be taken to the ground, and that he didn't comply with the officer's demands. What were the demands?
He did not stay still. I don't have the exact verbiage of what the demands were.
Okay, they were verbal commands,
Verbal commands, correct?
but you're not clear exactly what they were.
No, ma'am.
Cross exam.
Nothing further for follow-up, Your Honor. Thank you.
Your Honor, no, I don't have any questions for this witness.
Maybe it's going to be excused.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may be excused.
Thank you.
People calling in additional witnesses.
Yes, Your Honor. We would call Officer Armstrong to the stand. He'll be in the courtroom momentarily.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury.
I do.
You can be seated. State your first and last name, spell both.
I'm Officer Andrew Armstrong, ANDREW, ARMSTRONG.
Thank you. So where are you currently employed?
Lansing Police Department
In what capacity?
as a police officer on road patrol.
How long have you been with Lansing Police Department?
I've been since April of 2023.
And what area are you currently assigned as road patrol?
Night shift.
That's the shift, but what
Okay.
area of the city are you?
Generally south end.
Okay, very good. And were you working on the date of April 27th, 2024?
Yes.
And in the capacity as a road patrol officer?
Yes.
Were you dispatched to the area of 6615 Pennsylvania Avenue in the city of Lansing?
I was not.
Okay, so was there a situation that happened where you followed up on a case regarding a stolen vehicle?
Yes.
Was the stolen vehicle originally reported out of 6615 Pennsylvania Avenue?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay,
I believe that was a discount or air shop.
okay. And what did you do in the investigation as it relates to the stolen vehicle?
As I recall, Officer Hutchins requested additional units. She located the stolen vehicle abandoned. There was a subject walking away from that area that she thought might have been related to it. And she requested someone go and detain him and try to interview him.
Very good. And as in response to that dispatch, did you respond to the area?
Yes.
And when you arrived, what did you see when you arrived to the area?
I believe the closest intersection was Cedar and Mason, if I'm not mistaken. Officer Hutchins requested I go. She said this individual was walking southbound on the sidewalk on Cedar near a group of people that were 1 or 2 blocks away. I didn't see that individual at the time. A group of people said, "Oh, it's not what you're looking for. He's somewhere else. He's wearing a jersey and he was throwing bottles and screaming." To the best of my recollection, that's what happened. Then Officer Hutchins radioed to myself and another officer that he was wearing a basketball jersey and crossing the street.
All right, so when you received the the radio information from Officer Hutchins, was that something she was describing this person as wearing through her own observations?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay, and were you able eventually to find a person matching the description as provided by Officer Hutchins?
Yes.
And was that in the area of Cedar and Mason, or was that in the area of Cedar and Fenton?
That might have been Cedar and Mason. Cedar and Fenton might have been the original address we were at. It was right by the Dairy Queen is where the stolen car was located.
Okay, and did you observe the person described by Officer Hutchins?
Yes.
What did you do upon seeing this person?
I advised another officer that, hey, he's right there, crossing the street. Officer Hutchins was, she had called on the radio, he's crossing the street, right, only individual on the road at the time. I pulled in, I crossed the street in my marked police car, activated my lights, to initiate like, hey, this is the police, there's no guessing who we are. At which point he fled on foot away from us.
After seeing this person flee on foot, were you still in the vehicle or were you outside the vehicle at that time?
I was in the vehicle at the time he started to flee.
Did you pursue the person?
Yes, I yelled stop and he continued to run away from me.
Did you yell stop from inside the vehicle or outside?
I was outside the vehicle until that.
And were you wearing your full police uniform?
Yes.
Did you pursue this person on foot?
Yes.
And what happened then?
Relatively short foot pursuit happened. And he was carrying a bag and across the street, went into the backyard of a business, came across the fence, at which point I deployed my taser, which was effective, and then took him to the country.
Do you carry a taser on you as part of your position?
Yes.
And did you warn the person that you were going to be discharging the taser if they did not comply with your orders?
I don't believe I was able to get a warning on time
Okay,
because he faced towards me and I took that as a pre-assaultive indicator and I did not feel that I was warning was speechable at the time.
understood. And you pulled that out, and was that discharge of the taser, was it close proximity where you actually used the physical taser on the person, or did probes come out?
There were probes and the probes took effect.
Okay, after doing that, were you able to take this person under control and into custody?
Yes.
And tell us about that. Did the person comply with orders after taking him into custody?
For my portion of it, yes. I got him into custody and then handed him off to other officers who are investigating this as well.
Understood. And the person, if you were to see that person again, would you be able to recognize that person?
Yes.
Is the person here in the courtroom?
Yes.
Please point and describe an article of clothing.
Mr. Dodd Brown wearing a black shirt.
Thank you. Is that, what type of clothing is he wearing right now?
With a black shirt. With the jail shirt.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Let the record reflect that the witness has identified our defendant.
Objection to identification.
No, Your Honor.
Identification is noted.
I have nothing further for this witness. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Your Honor, I have no further I don't have questions for this witness.
Okay, any additional for this witness?
No, thank you.
Thank you, officer, you may be excused.
Thank you.
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Defense calling witnesses.
All right, Your Honor, yes, I have, after asking my client, there's no witnesses that we're gonna have for defense.
Thank you. Argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sadly, I was not present for the initial preliminary examination hearing, so I would leave the testimony as it relates to those witnesses and the discretion of the court. I understand, just based on my notes, that Officer Brown and Officer Fox testified as to counts 1 and 2, as well as 4. And per the notes, I understand that the officers did testify sufficiently to satisfy the elements of those 3 charges. As it relates to the officers that we heard from today in counts 3 and 5, those officers did testify that they were uniformed police officers assisting in a situation involving the defendant, in which the defendant was located in and around a stolen vehicle, and upon pursuit, the defendant ran and resisted while being in custody. refusing to comply, refusing to have his fingerprints taken. And based on the testimony that we had here and in the discretion of the court of what was presented at the prior preliminary examination, we are asking that Your Honor bind this matter over to the circuit court as charged.
Thank you. So we are here for a 5-count case. The first being receiving and concealing of a stolen motor vehicle. So the prosecutor must prove by a probable cause that Mr. Dodd Brown did buy, receive, possess, conceal, or aid in the concealment of a Jeep Wrangler. I believe there was testimony at the first exam. I apologize, Your Honor. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to remember everything, but obviously, I hope that want to make sure that there was testimony given, I think, by Officer Fox, that of how Mr. Dodd Brown, if at all, did conceal or aid in the concealment of a Jeep Wrangler. Then count 2, I believe that was at the first one as well. The burden is on the prosecutor to prove that by probable cause that he did knowingly retain or knowingly possess or secrete financial device. So, and then 3, 4, and 5 are all resisting obstruction. I believe we had testimony on all that, but in regards to Officer Martin, one issue that we have is that I don't believe that Officer Martin testified to what commands she gave to the defendant that he knowingly obstructed or resisted. So in that case, Your Honor, if that in that regard, I don't know if that satisfies the elements of that charge, and so we would be asking that it not be bound over on count 5. Thank you.
Okay, today was the continuation of the exam that again began back in May, May 17th to be exact. We continued it for the testimony of Officers Armstrong and Officer Martin. The burden is on the prosecution to put forth evidence sufficient to establish probable cause that a crime was committed and probable cause sufficient to charge you with the crime. This is not a trial. You don't have to prove each other beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a relatively low burden. They just need to establish that they have more than mere suspicion that the crimes as charged were committed and that you were the person to commit those crimes. It's a relatively flexible burden of proof, and the court will be the sole determiner of credibility of any testimony presented during this hearing. We had, again, 5 counts and a felony complaint here. Count 1, stolen property, receiving, concealing. Count 2, financial transaction device, stealing, retaining without consent. And then counts 3, 4, and 5, all police officer assaulting, resisting, obstructing. I had testimony back on May 17th from the officer Summer Hayes from the Lansing Police Department. She testified that on or about April 20th, 2024, the venue of 3400 South Waverly Marathon gas station, Lansing, Michigan, Eaton County, but within the 1-mile radius of Ingham County, that she received a call regarding a fire or to assist with the vehicle at a Marathon gas station. When she arrived, there was a black smoking vehicle, a Buick she described, that was on fire. That there was, she noticed some transmission fluid, oil, or a funnel that had been stolen, or she was advised by the clerk. The clerk from the gas station indicated she did not want to press charges, but pointed out the individuals, the males that were on the premises that had attempted to steal or had stolen the items in question. She just wanted them to leave the premises, she advised officers. Officer Hayes or Haynes, I believe it is, indicated that she observed a vehicle with issues. The vehicle appeared to be inoperable. She described the subject wearing gray sweatpants. She said the vehicle had not been reported stolen, at least not at that time. Officer clears the call. Later, a UTA comes in about a stolen vehicle with transmission issues. Stolen from Rio Road, which should be noted was in close proximity to the address of 3400 South Waverly Road. Officer Haynes returned to Marathon gas station, again saw the male that she previously identified with the gray sweatpants, trying to take the license plate off. He was wearing the same clothing as the suspect from the passenger of the vehicle from the previous call, she indicates. But at this time was wearing a COVID mask and a bucket hat. The defendant or the subject was seen hopped into the white GMC and took off. Officer Haynes activated the lights for a patrol vehicle. She indicated that the subject accelerated at a high rate of speed, ran a red light, and turned eastbound on Lockmore. On April 21st, or on about April 21st, Officer Haynes stated she was dispatched to the area of 2608 Teal for welfare, Ingham County, a state of Michigan, city of Lansing, for a vehicle reported stolen. She said she recognized the individual in the vehicle from a previous incident at the gas station with a fire. A dispatch arrived that the truck was stolen. She observed a bright colored bucket hat, which was previously seen in the Buick that was at the Marathon gas station the days prior. We heard testimony from Officer Cornelius Brown, who also is from the Lansing Police Department. He testified that on or about April 27, 2024, at the venue of 6615 Pennsylvania Avenue, Bell Tire, there was a dispatch for a UDAA stolen vehicle that a couple had dropped their vehicle off for a wheel alignment. Described the vehicle to be a Jeep Wrangler, which was now being reported missing. It was a distinctive color. I think the color was yellow. A yellow Jeep Wrangler that they described to be very distinguishable. Officers dispatched to Cedar observed the vehicle in the parking lot at or near the Dairy Queen. Officer conducted or tried to conduct a felony stop. A couple hours had passed. The vehicle was locked. The vehicle was unoccupied. Prior to arrival, an unknown individual was seen walking down the street, and individuals nearby indicated there were people in the house, or indication was provided to the officers from people in the house nearby. Officer noticed that lights from the vehicle flashed while he was in the area investigating, and the beep as if someone with keys was unlocking the vehicle. He identified the suspect within 150 feet walking distance of where this vehicle was. Inside the vehicle was some clothing items. He stated there was a key to another Dodge vehicle and a job application that had the name Tricorius Dodd Brown on the application. Officer was unable to identify Mr. Dodd Brown in court at the time of his testimony because he claimed he didn't get a good look at the suspect. The suspect walked and got into a verbal argument with a gray vehicle that was passing by. And the suspect, he states, was exhibiting some strange behavior. Officers stated that he helped to search the vehicle and located again the job application, keys, and other items in that vehicle. We heard testimony from Officer Fox, Mark Fox, who also indicated on April 27, 2024, at the area of 4100 South Cedar Street, also known as the Dairy Queen, that he was dispatched for a UDAA recovery. It was for a stolen Jeep just south. There was an individual that was arguing with another individual. There was a group of individuals that was observing. Ambulance had arrived because the subject had been tased. There was a search of the defendant's person. Keys for the Jeep was located in the defendant's front left pocket. And then we have today testimony from Officer Sabrina Martin, who was able to identify the defendant in court today as the individual that she assisted to take it into custody. She stated she arrived to the scene after our officer had already detained the individual. She helped to see the defendant, helped the defendant and requested or asked if he wanted to have the taser probes removed from him, to which he was not responsive. She described his demeanor to be angry and frustrated, and that he was very upset even while at the hospital. The defendant was medically cleared and transported to lockup. Officer Martin testified that the defendant was not compliant while they were trying to adjust his cuffs during the transport at lockup, that the defendant had to be taken to the ground. And even while on the ground, she testified that he was still throwing his body around. The court inquired as to what Officer Martin meant when she suggested that the defendant failed to comply with their demands. She wasn't clear to exactly what was stated, but that she indicated that there were verbal commands for the defendant to comply with that he failed to comply with. Defendant was placed in ankle cuffs. He refused to open his fist for fingerprinting, and she had to forcibly open his finger for fingerprinting. Lastly, we had testimony from Officer Andrew Armstrong, who followed up on the case of a stolen vehicle located, the vehicle abandoned, and requested someone to detain, is what his testimony was. He stated that the stolen car was located at or near the Dairy Queen, that the defendant had attempted to flee on foot after giving verbal commands, or after he gave him verbal commands, that there was a short pursuit. He yelled stop. He was in full uniform at the time that he yelled stop. He indicated that after the short pursuit, the defendant or subject faced towards him in an aggressive stance. The officer stated he felt threatened and therefore dispatched his or deployed his taser without any warning. Defendant was taken into custody. Officer Armstrong was able to identify the defendant in court today. Count one of stolen property, receiving, concealing a motor vehicle will require the prosecution at the time of trial to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, first, that some property was stolen or explicitly represented to the defendant as being stolen, embezzled, or converted property. Second, that the defendant bought, received, possessed, concealed, or aided in the concealment of that property. Third, the defendant knew or had reason to know or to believe the property was stolen when he bought, received, possessed, concealed, aided in the concealment of it. Fifth, or fourth, that is, that the property was a motor vehicle. And in this case, this is being charged as receiving, concealing property, motor vehicle. And so the court is satisfied that based on the testimony evidence of all of the witnesses taken together, that there is sufficient probable cause to bind over as to count one, stolen property, receiving, concealing Jeep Wrangler. Arguably, there's probable cause to bind over on some additional vehicles, but that wasn't moved for. So we'll bind over on count one. Count two, financial transaction device, stealing, retaining without consent. I don't believe that we've had sufficient testimony as to count two. And so that will be dismissed for lack of probable cause. Counts 3, 4, and 5, all police officer assaulting, resisting, obstructing. And we've had testimony from several officers who testified that they either, the defendant was on that date and time or that time frame, given verbal commands, on more than one occasion, because we have Andrew Armstrong indicating that he gave verbal commands for the defendant to stop, to which the defendant failed to do. And then we have Officer Rena Martin testifying that even at lockup, he was given verbal commands and that he failed to adhere to those commands, and that he had to be taken to the ground. And then we had testimony from Officer Fox, who also testified that there was the defendant failed to comply with the order or the commands of the officer and resisted or evaded their orders at the time that it was dispatched. Counts 3, 4, and 5, there's sufficient probable cause. Those will be bound over to accompany count 1. Again, count 2 will be dismissed for lack of probable cause. Bind over date is July 10th. That's the date that the circuit court gets the file from the district court. You do not need to appear in court on that date unless your attorney is making a motion for you to be rearranged at circuit court. Okay? Do you have any questions at this time?
Do you have any questions for the judge?
No.
Okay, any additional matters for the record?
Not from the people, thank you.
For defense, we'd like to make a bond request.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. John Brown is still being held on a $5,000 cash surety in this case. It's the only hold that has him in here. He's been in custody for 62 days now. He requests a personal recognizance bond. He has his plan is to release to the shelter. He can get mail at his grandmother's, Brenda Warren, and he does have a phone number he can be reached at. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We would object to a personal recognizance. This court has just heard probable cause the defendant has committed felonies that are now on their way to the circuit court. In looking at our files, I believe that there is another case up in the circuit court that involves possibly the facts that you described earlier from Officer Haynes, in that there is receiving concealing motor vehicle Buick, receiving concealing motor vehicle pickup truck. It looks like a fleeing and eluding Ford, all from April 20th of 2024. And in addition to these, with additional charges that you heard today, based on the testimony that I heard of the defendant's demeanor, his felony acts occurring in our community, I don't believe that he would be a good candidate for personal recognizance bond. He does not have a stable residence to be bonded to. And I believe that the bond is appropriate as it's set.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to work, but you have to go to shelter to do it. So, yeah, that's the point. You go to shelter. Yeah, you have to go to shelter for 14 days.
I've already.
Okay, so you're working on your own place. You should have it soon.
Yeah.
Okay, do you know when?
I'm in jail, so that's why I was having him do the work for me. But
Yeah.
I was out to do the work for myself.
You all need a moment.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, if you want to speak to, you want to stand up and speak to the judge, you can. Go ahead, but she wants to know, you need somewhere you can be released. If you want to get out today, you gotta be released today somewhere.
I plan on working with Pathway to a new beginning. He said he's putting me with a counselor to get me into an apartment. I've already applied to the apartment before I ran through all this ordeal.
Who is he?
Sterling,
Sterling. who?
Sterling win. Yes.
Okay. How long have you been working with him?
About 3 weeks now. He just recently, last 4 days, he came to see me, and then this one before this one, he seen me again. Just asked me questions and gave me a life coach, getting my life back in order. I told him that I applied for Waverly Way, Washington Way, over there in Washington. It's an apartment, anyways.
How are you gonna pay your rent?
I was on it's an income base. So
What income do you have?
I had a job before I came in here, man. So
Where were you working?
the YMCA,
What were you doing there?
just clerical work, doing computers, filling up stuff, cleaning, whatever they asked me, because I just started.
Clerical work? You worked in the office at which Y?
Oak Park Y,
At the Oak Park Y?
filling in applications, taking front desk work type deal. Not necessarily clerical, my bad.
And how long have you been working there?
2 days.
You were employed 2 days there before this happened?
Yes, ma'am.
So where were you employed before that?
Before there, I was working with William Reckenbach.
What's that?
The carpenter.
I don't have his criminal history. I know he has 2 felony cases pending at this point. He has a bond in the other matter, I would assume.
Yes, Your Honor, when you bound over the other case to circuit court, you gave him a personal cognizance bond on that. Or you reinstated it, really?
Reinstated it.
Because he had originally had a PR bond, and the new case propped up. But yeah,
I can provide priors for your honor if you like those.
Yes, please.
I have a possession of marijuana from 2016. Aggravated assault 2019. No ops 2019. Use of controlled substance 2020. Driving license suspended 2020. Driving license suspended 22. Failure to stop at a scene of a property damage accident, attended vehicle in 22. And disturbing the peace in March, on March 28th, 24. Here in this court. I'm not sure if it's here in this specific court, but in February.
Okay, and then the ones that's in circuit court, similar charges to.
Yes,
correct?
yes. Those were what I read earlier with the RNC.
Bond was set at the time of arraignment for 5,000 cash surety with GPS tether. It's noted that the defendant does not have an address even to bond to. I think it'd be appropriate to continue his bond as set. You can make another bond motion at the circuit court. The bond motion is denied. Any additional matters for the record?
no, Your Honor.
And do we know if Mr. Milks is?
Must still be over there because I haven't seen him pop in, so I'll go take a look to see what their status is.
Sounds good.